All right, so we should be live. How's everyone doing today? What's up, you say Booyah and Connor? Good to see you. We'll take a second just to get the stream set up and let people find the stream. How's the sound, guys? Sound and video working okay? This looks like people are starting to come in. All right, so let's get started. Hey Nathan and Jacob and Jody, Winters, good to see ya. Joe, Michael and Crypto and Melasidas, good to see you all. All right, so got a couple of Patreon questions to start the day off with. Let me just pull them up here. So the first question is, hey guys, I'm curious on your thoughts for keeping old/rare promos sealed versus grading them. I worry about them becoming damaged in the plastic sleeve over time, even if they are stored properly. So, yeah, different people keep these plastic cards kept. They try to keep them safe in different ways. So I've seen people put them in different types of hard cases. Card savers, I think, work well as long as you're really careful with them. You shouldn't have problems with it getting damaged or deteriorating over time. You just want to make sure that you kind of treat it like any card very carefully. When you're buying a card that's sealed from Japan, as a lot of the Japanese promos can be sealed in little plastic compartments, we could say. You just want to, look at the card, in person, just like you would look at, or if it's a picture online, you want to look at it just like you would look at any card. You're looking for the same types of damage. It can be a little bit harder, particularly through pictures, to see the damage through plastic, but it's doable. It's doable to be able to see that sort of damage. So I wouldn't worry. There are also options to get them graded sealed or to open them up, and I prefer the opening up option. I don't like the way some of them look when people get them graded. I have a couple cards that were still sealed when they were graded, and the way the plastic kind of folds and looks over time, I've never opened one of those up, so I don't know if over time it hurts the card that the plastic is on there. I'm not sure about that. But I generally open the plastic. I think most people open the plastic and send them in, although some people like to keep it sealed and graded altogether. All right. So let's see what types of questions we have in the chat today. Connor B says, Jake, would love to hear what you think of the Black Star promos. Some have very low pops, and I wonder if this is artificial or true scarcity. Some of the cards are fantastic for sure and priced low. Yeah, so you'd have to, more specifically, Connor, if you want to ask below, which Black Star promos that you're looking at sort of all the those like English Black Star promos, the ones from the Wizards of the Coast era. Definitely some cool ones in there. The most well known and valuable was the Lucky Stadium, and I always liked, which ones were always sort of my favorite. I liked the birds. These promos were not ever very expensive. There were a lot of them, and there were a number of them graded. And it's one of those things we talk a lot about on the channel, about how there just wasn't a lot of value in grading some of these. And so I would expect, as prices go up on some of them, that they'll go up. That more will be graded, and those pop reports may go up over time. It's not an area that I look at too closely. I sort of bought one or two of a lot of those when I felt like they were like pretty cheap and pretty good deals, and I haven't gone back and done a lot of specific research or buying into them. I think there's probably opportunity there. These are, people do really like promos. You can see how well modern promos are doing, and these like vintage, Wizards of the Coast, unique art in some cases, type promos. So if they're not, too, there might be thousands, many thousands of some of these still sealed, still in gem mint condition that might be graded over time. So that would be the concern with a lot of those, particularly the ones that had the lower value points, the ones that were going for $10, $15, even in PSA 10, which were quite a few of them. All right. So hopefully that's helpful. What I would do in your situation, Connor, is I've just watched the pop reports over time. If you're interested in, I pick a few that you think have sort of the best art, and I would watch, how quickly the pop reports are going up. I might buy a few if you feel like the prices are really undervalued, to take a bit of a gamble, and then wait, before buying a lot. Because the danger of buying a lot of those cards, as I said, is 10,000 sealed ones come on the market and they're all perfect, and you're buying a lot up, and basically you're bidding against yourself. You're raising the price on yourself, and then the sellers who have those cards see the price going up, and then they send a bunch off to PSA. We're sort of waiting for that moment, and it kind of collapses that market, at least temporarily. So Nathan Gardner says, do I follow the Funko Pop market at all? I do not. I honestly don't at all, Nathan. It's I have zero knowledge about the Funko Pops. I do like them. I think they're kind of cool looking. I've seen a lot of the Pokemon ones, and have thought about picking one up or something. I don't know if there are any like rare Pokemon ones. I know there are like a lot of very not rare, inexpensive ones. Those were the ones that I was thinking of just picking up just for a display piece. But I know that there are Funko Pops that are quite expensive. I don't know how that market's doing right now. I imagine it's doing well, like everything else. I know that they have Funko Pops that they released at certain like Comic-Con conventions. I know a little bit about the market, in that those releases had very low, print runs, like 1 of 12 or 1 of 24 or 1 of 36. Versus the however many they print of a normal Funko Pop. I don't know, but hundreds of thousands, I assume, if not a million, of sort of the normal distribution. So those do have quite a bit of value. I've seen some of some Joker ones and some specific Batman ones sell for quite a bit of money. I think they're cool, but not an area I've collected in. Yusebuya says, did I enjoy the concert? Visuals were neat, but not a fan of his music. I have not watched the concert yet. I actually spent last night with family, doing a sort of family get-together, so I missed the concert. I did a little bit of a pre-dinner commentary on with a couple of other YouTubers, and then had dinner for a while, and then caught a little bit of the Logan Paul break, and hung out with some people in Squeaks and Pokemon Radar's Discord. But I missed kind of the middle part, and I didn't see the concert. So maybe I'll check out the concert sometime today, or probably not today, but maybe sometime this week. I also didn't watch a lot of the Logan Paul break, so I'm going to go back and probably watch a little bit of it. But I know what he pulled. I heard it was, and even more importantly, or as importantly, the centering on the box and the way the cards look seem to be really really nice. So there could be a couple new PSA 10 Charizard 10s, as well as a couple PSA 10 first edition Chanseys, which are an extremely hard card to get in first edition, and even harder in Shadowless in a PSA 10. Connor B says, "How about that Logan Paul box? What condition and pulls?" Yeah, it was pretty. That's like an unbelievably fortunate box. I think in some ways, I wonder how opening such an amazing box and seeing a lot of those comeback 10s is going to affect prices. I wonder if it's going to hurt prices because people are going to be like, these aren't as hard to get, or more can come on the market. It almost can feel that way a little bit. Or if it's going to raise the prices of like booster boxes because, or both, because now it, might slightly lower some of the card values because more 10s may be coming on the market, and these sort of like Logan Paul 10s that may have a higher premium, which could push down some of these other 10s. Who knows, right? It could have the reverse effect. It could bring them up if those sell for higher prices. No one really knows. But if people now think these boxes, the expected value is much higher than they thought before because they see these cards sell for so high in the next coming months, people could start asking even more for those booster boxes. Who knows? These are such rare products, those first edition booster boxes, that it's sort of like in this type of market, while people still want them a lot, they can ask some pretty high prices. Ryan Russ said the Squirtle was not an error. You could see the red stuff wasn't there when he was opening the pack. Oh, yeah, people talking about the red stuff, yeah. Yep, I saw that part of the video. Malasada says, bit of a strange question, but how do you sell cards that are more in the thousands range? It's not as easy as for lower values. Could you elaborate on this? Thank you. So I don't do a ton of selling, particularly nowadays, but when I do sell, and I do actually more trading these days, and I'm doing just like pure selling, trading for other collectibles or moving my cards from certain Pokemon collectibles to other Pokemon collectibles. When I do sell, and I do sell it, some, for sure, I generally, my biggest preference is to sell to people that I know, who are already in my network, people who reach out to me on Instagram that I feel like are trustworthy or I have a relationship with. So I like to sell through Instagram directly. In terms of if I don't have that option, where I don't have a network or people that I know might be interested in a card, or I don't have people approaching me, because lots of people approach me because I have this channel to buy my cards or offer on those sorts of things. I generally, for like anything under sort of, let's say like 1,000 to 10,000, if we want to talk in there, I think PWCC is a really good bet. There's a lot of attention, there are a lot of eyes on those auctions, particularly if it's a more niche card where you feel like there aren't going to be 4 or 5 of them in an auction block. That's always a concern with PWCC, is that you send in an expensive card, but 4 or 5 other people send in the same card, and then all of your cards go for lower than they might have because of that. And I think we saw that issue in this past PWCC block, where there was just too many cards for the market to absorb all of them in sort of that one night, that one period. But it's good in terms of the fee structure. It's not going to be as expensive for you as putting it in a place like Heritage Auctions or Golden Auctions, which are two really good options. I think if you're looking at higher values than that, you may want to start thinking about Golden and Heritage, because they do a better job of giving people a chance to bid. Their system is better for having things like snipe bids, not take an item from someone else who may have bid higher, because they're not all ending in a couple of seconds. And the way that those auction houses work is if you bid in the kind of normal part of the auction, once the auction ends, you're then moved on to with the other people who bid, and you get a chance to bid on that item. And every time someone bids, they add more time to the auction, which allows for sort of the highest possible price, very likely to be paid for the item that you're looking at, because people have a chance to think about it, reflect on it. Of course, the reverse can happen, because once people have a chance to reflect on it, they may actually pay lower than a freak out crazy max bid that someone may throw in a PWCC auction, so that can happen too. But overall, it's going to be better for you doing that sort of stuff there. And then just the protection against shill bidding, that type of thing is going to be better in those auctions. They have more experience dealing with those high end items. But and then, of course, eBay is always a good option for those types of items. And then you have to decide, do you want to auction it off? I would hesitate if you don't have a big eBay page and you haven't been selling a lot and you don't have a lot of, I would hesitate you really throwing up a big item in auctions on eBay. It's part of why people can sign with certain people who have bigger, more established eBay pages and do that. I would hesitate, but throwing it up as a buy it now, best offer, these types of things, is a good option, as long as you can be patient, because it may not sell right away. The positives of doing an auction is that, theoretically, as long as the person actually pays, which can be an issue, that you're going to get your money on a certain day, that the item is going to be sold on a certain day. When you throw it up, buy it now, best offer, could sit there for months, years, could be bought immediately. So that's all the stuff to think about. But it's a great question, and I think most people would have a similar answer to mine, who are big sellers. And I talked a lot about these types of things with them. All right. PokeJohn says, I hate the case PSA gives when grading the sealed individual cards. Back what we were talking about before, in the beginning. Okay, so Connor B has a follow-up on his initial promo question. Thank you. So he's saying Wizards specifically, which is what we were talking about, 2000 and 2001, like the Togepi and the Eevee and the Psyduck, etc. Yeah, exactly. That's what I assumed you were talking about. Yeah, I like those cards. I bought a few of them. I think the answer I gave before kind of applies. It's you have to look at the price history and understand that a lot of those cards were going for $15, $25, $30 in PSA 10, and so there just wasn't an incentive to grade them, because if you got a 9, you would make like no money potentially. So it is possible that people still have them in large number. It's also possible that they don't. I don't know anyone offhand, Connor, that has like a huge stack of them waiting to be graded. It wouldn't shock me though if someone like Rusty at TCA Gaming, that's like his type of stuff. Like he was buying, I think, a lot of those types of things. It wouldn't shock me if he had, if there were some guys like that who were doing massive submissions right now of those types of cards. Now they also might be smart and do slow submissions because they don't want to blow up the pop reports too much. So you kind of have to feel it out there. But great cards. I think, underrated cards in terms of just like how much they're appreciated. I'd much rather take a chance on some of those cards than I would, some modern things for a similar price. And I think the gamble could pay off. You just have to be careful and worried about that supply side. But that's going to be true for most everything right now in Pokemon that wasn't already expensive. All right. Alex Coronado says, hey, Jake, what do you think about that guy from Gold's Auctions last night saying that the Logan Pulsards will be going for $750,000 and be the most expensive? Yeah, I didn't like it. When people make price predictions for things that have never sold and the market hasn't decided. I don't like that in general. I think that he's trying to have fun. He was invited there right into Logan Paul's space. Logan Paul is a really huge person and an important person to probably have like you and to connect with in terms of like his career and what he wants to do and work more with Logan. They made a lot of money. Golden Auctions made a lot of money off of Logan sales as well. They get a pretty nice percentage off of those huge pack sales, and they want Logan to continue to send cards with them. So I think these things are pretty transparent for people who are, understand how these types of business arrangements work. And, those types of comments, they certainly rub me the wrong way, but I think most people see through them. Most people see what's happening there. Although I do think it's still effective, because I think that hearing someone who's an expert, right, who's on camera, who is at Golden Auction, who's supposed to be an expert, right, in collectibles, say that this thing should be worth $1 million. I mean, he made those comments about the first edition Charizard, that the one that is currently in auction he thinks is going to go for $500,000. That actually even bothered me a little bit more, because it's almost like you're shilling the price up of an auction that if it goes higher, you'll make more money on. I don't like that stuff. But putting that aside, we live in the real world here. So as investors, as collectors, you just have to be aware of why they're doing that and understand that there's hype involved in that. Now there are good reasons also and fundamentals to believe why that card could be $1 million and could be $750,000, but there are also reasons why it won't be and why it may not be. And those weren't shared. It wasn't like here are some reasons it could, here are some reasons why it couldn't. It's I expect it to and I think it will, and here's the number without any real reasons attached. That's the dangerous sort of stuff. And 120,000 people hear that, 120,000 people take it into their brain that cards should be worth $1 million, and then, whatever percentage really believe that versus have my sort of reaction, who knows. But it certainly has an effect. I really didn't like that, when YouTubers were doing it. I don't like it when he does it. It's the same type of stuff. I do it too. Sometimes I'm sure I try really hard not to. These things also just kind of come out of our mouths sometimes, and that may also just be his honest opinion, as a person who maybe doesn't even speak for the company, just giving his guess, right? But I think it's irresponsible to give a guess like that in that sort of environment, in my opinion, and people are going to read into it, and also it's going to have an effect on the market that I don't think is a healthy way to grow value, a healthy, long-term, sustainable way to grow value. But that can be argued back and forth, because some of these hyping sort of things can really be effective both in the short term of prices reaching new highs, but also potentially in the long term, because once prices get established, there can be a little bit of price inertia, and it can be harder for it to come down. So complicated stuff. But yeah, it's a great question, and Joe Cartwright says, did you watch the Logan Paul opening? If so, what were your thoughts? Yeah, so those were some of my thoughts on it, on that specific moment. I enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as exciting as the last one, the little bits that I watched. The energy in the room, just, I don't know. I think the fact that it wasn't like as many PokeTubers and it was a lot of crypto people also just didn't make it feel as fun. Seeing like people from our community go up there and buy a pack was more fun for me personally. It was cool seeing the cards being pulled. It was cool seeing the great centering. It'll be really interesting to see what, if and when those cards get those 10s and those pedigrees, and then there's going to be auctions, and there's going to be a lot of content. People are going to create lots and lots of videos around that. We're going to see how that affects the rest of the market. Going to be a lot of interesting things there. I think the whole NFT thing is really interesting, and Logan's going heavy into NFTs, and has already made a fortune, has already made more money than a lot of people make in their entire lives in a day, on NFTs, these types of things. So we'll have to see. And for those who don't know, NFTs, non-fungible tokens, if people have questions about those, we can talk about them. I've been studying them and looking at them, and Mitch says, hey guys, hope everyone had a good week. Hope you had a good week too, Mitch. Thanks for joining us today. Alex says that he watches every video, but he hasn't made the live in a while. Well, thank you for watching, Alex. I certainly recognize your handle, and thanks for being here. So I'm just going to take a second. If everyone can just take a second to like the video, and if you're not subscribed already, subscribe to the channel. Helps with our growth, helps with our momentum, and helps the channel and community here grow. So really appreciate that if you like the analysis and get value from it. If you could take a second to do that. Thank you very much. All right. Alex Palomito says, hey, can you give us an update on your Marvel card research? Do you think they ever have their moment? So they're having a moment right now, for sure, Alex. Cards I was buying, like full sets I was buying for $40. Like I was buying mint sets for $40, and those mint sets had like hundreds of cards in them, and a lot of the cards in PSA 10 from those mint sets I was buying are each worth over $1,000 in PSA 10. So insane growth. I've had some watchers of the channel, some people contact me about those cards, wondering, should I have some, should I get them graded, should I rush the grade, do you think a ton of them are going to come back and it's going to flood the market and panic? Asking exactly the right questions. I don't know the answer. I'd be worried and am worried because I own a decent amount of them about the exact same thing. I have not decided on my strategy yet. I'm still waiting a little bit. I am a little anxious about it. I'd like to see it last another month or two. Because I do think there are a lot of people express grading like a ton of them, and I'm worried it's gonna kill the market very, very quickly. But everyone has their own risk tolerance. There's a lot of money to be made there, and I totally get why it's super attractive to take a $500, $1,000 gamble, and you could walk away with like $12,000, $15,000 or more if you could really sell them quickly and you have the right ones. So those cards we're talking about, some of the 90s, some of the 90s key cards, key cards that people grew up with. It's actually some of the rare stuff which is older. Hasn't moved quite as much. It's really the stuff that people our age, in their 30s and a little bit older, were buying and collecting. That's the stuff that's really seeing the resurgence, which is interesting. So haven't done too much more research, just understanding the prices, following the price market. Haven't been able to talk with anyone, unfortunately, like from that world to get any in-depth insight. I don't have connections there. So, but I'm keeping my ears out. I've gone on Clubhouse recently, and Clubhouse is a good place where I try and jump in other rooms. I've been jumping in other like sports cards rooms and meeting people and just meeting people from different communities. I know a Magic club is going to start soon, that sort of thing. So that's a good place where you can find a lot of you can find creators, founders of these types of cards, people who know tons of information and tons of details. And, when I find someone like that, I have lots of questions and I sit there very quietly and just kind of like take notes as they speak. So still waiting for that moment to happen. Pokedynamic says, hey Jake, did you follow the PWCC auction last night, and was there any big standouts you found interesting? So I'm going to do a video on the rundown of PWCC. As I said earlier, I was spending time with family last night, so I didn't watch it super closely. I just kind of got some of the kind of a sense of it. My overall sense, and this could be somewhat wrong, because I haven't gone deeply into, and it was such a huge auction. There were so many cards. So, but the parts that I watched, trophy cards did really well. I know some people definitely thought that the Pikachu Illustrator would go higher. I think that's that's a great sale for a 7 in my mind. I understand that people did hope that would go higher. The number 2 trophy, the Unicarp and the Tropical Wind, I think all had very, very strong, very, very strong sales. So those have really continued, and this was something that we've talked about on the channel. Everything is so short term and crazy that who knows what's going to happen. But in a night like that, those did really well because the market wasn't flooded with them. It goes back to this rarity idea. So those cards were sort of lagging, and they've actually started to really catch up, some of those trophy cards, in terms of the percentage growth. Now we're starting to see 5 times percentage growth on a tropical wind type of thing, whereas before we were hovering around more like the 3 times to 4 times. And we saw some retraces on certain set cards, particularly set cards where there were lots and lots of them being sold at once last night. I think there were some higher prices for certain things than last time around, some lower prices for other things. I'm going to have to go through it all with a fine-tooth comb to really see what happened. A lot of it is just kind of random craziness because they put so many cards in a few seconds, and so many people are trying to snipe it that I wouldn't read too much into your card going up a lot, too much, or going down too much, unless it's a very significant card that there was only one of, where people had time to bid on it and focus on it, if that makes sense. So, like the Crystal Charizard sale, it was a pretty high sale. That's recovered most of its value from its dip. It's recovered about $8,000 of its dip. It was selling like it's high around like 23, 24 maybe. Came down. I saw one sell at like 13, 14,000. It's come back up to like 21. There was only one of those in PSA 10 last night, for example. I believe. I think there was a couple 9s, maybe a BGS 9 and a PSA 9. I'm not exactly sure. But that's an example, right, of a card where there weren't 4 of them and that they were high enough price value that everyone saw that auction, and probably everyone who wanted to bid on it or really wanted that card probably bid, right? So those are the types of cards I would put more stock into the price point than I would put in the ones that 6 of them, and there are 6 PSA 8 first edition of a card, and one happened to sell really low, one happened to sell high, because a ton of them are going on at once. Okay. Huge thing we do in Pokemon, or some people do, is just accept, like, a new price point gets set and people accept it, right? Whether it's high or low, or that's the new going price rate, or the market's crashing because a card went down 30%, or the market's spiking again because the card went up 30%. Those are just normal fluctuations sometimes. These are illiquid items that sell very randomly for all different price points at the same time, okay? What we're really looking for is broad trends across whole sectors of the market, we could say. I'll do more research on this specific auction and see if I can see any of those broad trends. I did see that with the trophies. So, what else we got here? Jalapeno says, "Damn, it's been a while. What's up, Jake? Nice to have you here." Mighty Sponge says, "Hey, Jake. I know you are into DBZ. Are you also into DBS cards? And why is the market for those skyrocketing also right now?" Yeah, so Dragon Ball Z is an extremely popular franchise. I like Dragon Ball Super. I don't like hardcore collect in it. I'm not looking to get every card in PSA 10. I have some cards. I think they're cool, but mainly just because it's fun and I enjoy it just as a collector. I didn't want to put a lot of money at risk in DBS. DBZ I have put a significant amount. I also like the DBZ cards quite a bit more, in large part because it's my childhood, and those cards were around in my childhood. I remember them, and they're anime scenes. They're the characters in the anime scenes from the anime that I watched as a kid. I've seen Dragon Ball Super, and I enjoyed watching Dragon Ball Super because I love the characters and the continued arcs and just more and more powerful monsters, beings, now we're like angels and, getting involved, gods, right, deities getting involved in the different sagas. I enjoy it, but it's not as connected to me. So, and all of the intense, colorful cards and amazing patterns and stuff, they're really cool looking, but it's almost kind of like every card has that. So it takes away a little bit of that chase and challenge, where in Score, for example, like some of the cards are really gorgeous and cool looking, but only the super rare ones, these ultra rares that were only like 1 in 12, 12 packs have some of the coolest looking art, in my opinion, and holo patterns. So, And why is it skyrocketing right now? Well, so many things are. I think that just be careful out there. It's the same things I've been saying for the past 8 months, right? This is the type of market we're in. There's so many people who are irrationally exuberant about everything, putting lots of money into things. All the same stuff we talk about constantly on the channel. Stimulus checks, unemployment benefits, people not having as much money to spend on all the stuff that is boosting the Pokemon market is also boosting that. Jody Matomo's videos says, the concert was nice visually and to the ears, but other than that, it was a bit bland, I guess. Oh, okay. I'll check it out. He says Rusty's box was nuts. Yeah, that was an insanely good box. Lau says, to be honest, Logan's box break was mostly him just milking it for money. He deserves everything he's achieved, but for this specific event, it was about milking it for money. He opened the pack so fast. Yeah, I mean, I think that he likes Pokemon, but definitely likes money a lot and has talked openly, about that he wants to be extremely wealthy and rich, and we can all debate the ethics or merit of that as a good life choice or a life choice that's good for everyone. These types of things. Let's see what else we got here. Jody talking a little bit about the Fortnite box. Charizard Chaser says, curious question. Debating to sell my secret rare 20th anniversary Pikachu Black Label. It's Pop 2, and because there's no comps for it, I don't want to sell myself short. I don't know yet. Yeah, so you're thinking about it. Yeah, Black Labels are hard to price, of course. Anything that doesn't have, as you said, a lot of comparisons, it can be difficult to price, and I certainly respect and understand that you want to get as much money as you can for your item. Good luck on trying to figure out that price. Let's see what else we got here. Steven Kissoon says, hey Jake, any word on 25th anniversary promo outside of McDonald's? And do you think Vivid Voltage has great long-term potential? I have 4 boxes and would like to keep them for 20 plus years. So I haven't heard anything yet on more 25th anniversary news, but I'm not a breaking news channel, nor am I trying to be, on the first one, out there with that news. I just every few days I read, I absorb a lot of content and I hear from other people. So generally I do hear things pretty quick, and then I read really good websites like PokeBeach and just get the info from there. What I really study and my focus tends to be on some of the more high-end stuff. But let's see. The second part of your question, Vivid Voltage, does it have great long-term potential? Yeah, I when we're talking about in modern, maybe. I mean, the question about all of this stuff is that your best place to put your money? So I think if you want to invest in modern, you should invest in sealed modern product. And I think if you want to invest in modern, sealed Vivid Voltage isn't a bad choice. I think that sealed Hidden Fates, sealed Vivid Voltage, sealed Cosmic Eclipse, maybe to a little bit lesser extent, but also sealed Burning Shadows, just because the Charizard, even if it's a less fun box to open, I think those boxes have some upside in the long run, and also are pretty safe depending on the prices that you buy them at, which is a big part of it because a lot of these booster boxes can be very expensive. I don't know the current prices or ETBs and when it comes to a specialty set like Hidden Fates. So I don't invest in things like that. I don't think they're investable in the sense that they're a good store of value that's going to get you really good returns and are worth the risk. Just because there's so many. There's probably so many of the product. We have no idea how much of the product is in the world. We have no idea how popular Pokemon will be in 5 to 10 years. So you're basically banking on there being more demand in 5 to 10 years than there is supply left. And you're banking on the fact that all the people buying it right now and driving up the prices are actually buying it for collections, or a lot of them, and not as speculators who are going to want to flip it eventually and then potentially crash the market for any of these things. So I don't think that's going to happen. I think that they'll probably go up. I think Pokemon is doing so well right now, and I really want all these booster boxes to go up a lot in value. So when I say these things, it's not hoping that any of this is going to happen. It's just telling you what I think is the truth and the risks that I think other people aren't mostly not willing to tell people, or aren't aware of because they haven't studied other markets. So those are risks right now. There are safer bets probably for that money within Pokemon, but yeah, definitely sealed. I'm quite bearish on modern PSA cards in particular. I'm the most bearish on modern PSA cards. I'm the second most bearish on modern ungraded cards, and I think that buying sealed product. I mean, if we just look at Magic the Gathering or some of these other sorts of things, the booster boxes tend to go up in value over time for a very obvious reason, that they get opened and there are less and less of them, and that they're fun to open, and people like to re-experience old product, vintage product, and they're willing to pay a lot more than the expected value. So even if the market gets flooded with cards from these sets, the sealed product will, there's always going to be less, and people will pay for that gambler's premium and that fun of opening. And that's what has happened in other markets. Now, prices still have gone down a lot on sealed in sports and in other sorts of things during down periods, right? But it can come back up. It has come back up. Yeah, the problem is going to be that expected value problem so 90s sports boxes, a lot of these basketball boxes and other sorts of things, are having a resurgence right now. Just to go into a little bit of history on this. Forever they were extremely cheap. They were going for less than what they were 30 years ago. Okay, so this argument that just because something is 30 years old that it's going to go up in value every year for 30 years isn't the reality of collectible markets. So when we look at these boxes, they didn't go up in value at all because there were so many of them and so many people were constantly selling them that there was never enough people to buy out the supply. Okay? What's happened recently is that there's been these prices have been going up on these booster boxes because people have started to grade certain rookie cards, Gary Payton rookie cards, going for $600 or something. In PSA 10, it's now suddenly worth opening these booster boxes. And because people are mass opening and sending them to PSA, the prices are going up. So the reason those prices are going up is because there's some value inside. The expected value is a lot higher once you grade the cards than the booster box is selling for, okay? But in Pokemon, that's probably never going to happen because so much modern is being graded right now. Then in 30 years, they're not going to look back and be like, well, they never graded Gary Payton rookie cards enough. Now the price is surging on those. It gives incentive to now open up a lot of the product that never got opened. So if Pokemon booms for another few years, in the next 2 to 3 years, if you're a Vivid Voltage holder, okay, this is what you're hoping for. And if Pokemon continues to boom like this for another 2 to 3, 4 years, and they don't do reprints of Vivid Voltage, okay, there may be enough demand in that period of time that even if Pokemon dips down in demand in 5 years, let's say, and it will dip down in demand at different times, almost certainly. Okay, could go up first and then dip back to where it is now. We don't know the answer to that, but there will have its down periods, very likely. Just speaking from a common sense perspective, and in those down periods, the demand may really leave, and people may need to sell those vivid voltage boxes, and so you may have a lot of people who are hoarding them start to put them on the market. But if a lot of those people sold their booster boxes over the previous 5 years, and most importantly, they got opened for the fun and the enjoyment, you may take enough of that sealed product out of the world that even if the demand retraces, there's not going to be enough. There's still going to be enough people in the hobby to absorb what boxes may come onto the market in that sort of panic. So who knows, But those are all of the fundamentals and factors to think about how markets like this work. Vincent LG says, Pokenomics, if the market can absorb 4,000 PWCC auctions, what could 10,000 PSA cards do? Yeah, so there are going to be millions and millions coming back of PSA cards coming back from PSA. So we're going to see how many of those come onto the market, how many people want to sell, and what that does to the market, okay, and what that does to the PSA card market. So just be careful. Stephen Kassoon says, come on, guys, let's get likes up to 100. I appreciate that, Stephen or Stefan. Yeah, if you guys are here, I see there are 157 people watching right now. Appreciate you guys taking the time to ask these great questions and spend time with us. If you can take a second to like the video, subscribe to the channel, show your appreciation for the work and for the value, hopefully, that you get from my answers. Or just the entertainment, that would be much appreciated. Thank you so much. All right. Giuliano says, hey, Jake, did I get anything from this month's PWCC auction? No. So I almost bid on a couple of things that I was looking at. I thought a couple of things were pretty good value this month, and I almost pulled the trigger. But as I said before, I was spending the night with my family, and I wasn't really in that mindset, and I didn't prepare myself and to really buy last night. So I might have missed out on a couple of items that I may have bid if I was more kind of focused and on top of things. But there was nothing that I saw having gone back through it. And generally with PWCC auctions, I do like a pre-screen of all of the cards to see if there's anything I'm really interested in. I watch certain things that I really want to watch and cards that I either own or that I'm following very closely to either buy more of or sell some of the ones that I have. And so I did that, and there wasn't anything that like really, really stood out. William says, I missed the PWCC auction. Did cards underperform? So I think it was a bit of an uneven night. I think that certainly some things, I'm not sure underperformed, but dipped in price a little bit. I think other things went up in price, certainly. So I'm going to do a video on the channel, hopefully with Rafi. I know it's been a while. Rafi and I want to do more videos together. We're both very busy, and there's scheduling issues. So hopefully we will do that video together because we enjoy doing that. All right, and we'll do more of a rundown. Benjamin Mertz donates $25. Thank you so much, Benjamin. That's really, really generous of you. He says, I really enjoy your content. Thank you. Thanks, Benjamin. Thanks for hanging out. All right. Let's see where we are here. Jody Matomo asks, do you think PSA... Oh, sorry, one question before that, Jody, and then I'll get to that. Jasper Lee asked, I almost missed his question. What is your opinion on the long-term prospects of Gold Star cards? I'm quite optimistic. Yeah, I think that they have a lot of great things going for them. They have those like 1 in 72 pull rates, very difficult cards to pull from sets that were not printed a lot initially, and very few of sealed product remain. And on top of it, the expected value is so poor from those sealed booster boxes because it's so difficult to get those gold stars, and it's very difficult to grade those gold stars in PSA 10, that you don't see a lot of that product being opened up because you lose so much money when you open that product as compared to some other vintage products. So yeah, I think that if Pokemon is even stable, those cards will go up in value over time. That's what I would say about those. Like if Pokemon just remains stable, people are confident and calm in the market, people enjoy it, people find value in the community, gold stars are excellent. You know, they have all the fundamentals. The only downside of the gold stars is that a lot of the older people in the hobby, people who were really there during the mania of base set and jungle fossil and rocket, they didn't necessarily develop relationships, you know, with those cards as kids, so they're not going to have that nostalgic connection to them. And there may be people, a certain number of people, and probably a decent number of people who are wealthy and they just want first edition PSA 10, you know, versions of base set, jungle, fossil, and rocket, and that's it. You know, that's all that they feel connected to. They don't want anything else. They're not interested in anything else. So that's the only knock on gold stars. Otherwise, they're the best set cards. I'm going to say they're hands down the best set cards, I think. In terms of the shiny, they look awesome. They're of all the best Pokemon. So much history to them. Part of the original Nintendo card, EX era. Phenomenal cards. Jody Matomo's videos says, do you think PSA will eventually come out with something similar to Beckett's Black Label? So, I would be really surprised, but who knows? I think that if the market really starts to demand for that, and PSA really gets a lot less people because people want Black Label, I could see it particularly on Modern, where it just becomes so flooded. Like PSA 10 Modern cards for a lot of these sets, and maybe if Pokemon gets even more popular and there's more cards printed and finally they start printing to demand, the only way to make any card valuable from a Modern set is in Black Label. And so a lot of people may start just grading with Beckett or with CGC if their label also has that premium. So if PSA wants to capture some of that market, again, they may do something like that. Definitely an interesting thing to think about. J.M. Smith says the PSA 8 lenticular Deoxys went up last night. Yeah. So, as you know, we talked about that lenticular on our channel. Gave good fundamentals of why that card is undervalued, underappreciated, and most importantly, it was underknown. And that's why it was so undervalued. Be careful with those cards, and I said this last week. There are a number of those cards still in Japan. Probably not in 9 and 10 condition. Very few. 8s, maybe a bit more, right? When we get into 8s and 7s and 6s. So be careful. Great card. Love the card. It's really for people who like niche Japanese things, though. It's really for people who like those unusual, kind of one-off type cards. I think that's sort of to me, a must-have or a close to must-have, in that type of collection. It's just so unique. Oh, people talking a little bit about seeing Guru and Logan's video. Yeah. I guess he bought a pack. He bought right. He opened the last pack of the night, I think, and pulled a Mewtwo, if I remember correctly. Mitch says, I wish Logan would have gotten SM Pratt on the stream. That would have been 1,000 times better than Guru. Yeah, yeah. He did have Scott Pratt in his video a little bit describing some market analysis, which was nice to see, and some other people who have really been done, have quite a bit of knowledge, or have made, although Guru, to be fair, I think has a decent amount of knowledge, but it's the way that he brands himself, right, and the way that he talks about himself, and the different things he says, right? His lack of sort of caution in terms of the way he speaks that really got him into trouble. And then the obvious stuff, just like holding money and cards constantly together, that rubs so many people the wrong way. So yeah, it was nice seeing that video and seeing friends of mine, people I've gotten to know, selling their boxes to Logan Paul. It was cool to see. Connor B says, Jake, do you think that there are really enough whales to have created a floor in Pokemon, or do you think that is just the bulls selling the bull case on the market? So the real dangerous scenario, and this is where bubbles can actually kill a market, and it can actually send it lower than it was initially. I don't think this is going to happen, but this is the danger scenario, is that the huge uptick in prices pushes a lot of people to grade their cards, to look for their cards, to find their cards, and pushes all that supply onto the market. Okay, that wouldn't have ever come on the market, or it would have come on much slower over many, many years, and would have been absorbed much slower over many, many years. But instead, the huge price increases cause people with thousands and thousands of PSA of gem mint unlimited Charmanders, let's just throw that out there, right, to send all of those in quickly. Okay, and what happens is if the demand all of a sudden gets quickly ripped out, and if the demand goes exactly back to the way it was before, there's going to be a lot more supply than there was before. And because of that, prices can actually go lower than they were in this horror scenario. Now, I don't think that's going to happen, because I think there's so much more demand, and there's so many more people who are going to stay in the hobby. And the hobby has grown so much in a way that I don't think will ever change for the foreseeable future, is my very much hope. But just be aware. You have to be aware of those sorts of things. There are people right now who of course say, well, if the prices ever went back to there, I'd just buy up everything. I think that's very true. I think it's very likely that those people would actually do that. I know I would do that. I was buying up everything at those prices before. I would do it again. I have the capital. I have the money that if prices really went down that low, you could actually buy out basically the vintage market with like a pretty big fortune, but not like an insane fortune. Yeah, a few $1 million could buy out most of the vintage market back at what it was. Okay, so I think it's safe, because you just don't need, there's so much money in the market now that you would need like all of it to disappear. So in terms of a floor, or where the floor is, though, if we think that that's extremely unlikely to happen, and we think that the floor is probably going to be somewhere in the middle, somewhere, it's all a speculation, guessing game, right, of where that floor could be. I have my price points where I would start buying again, and if I started buying a lot and liquidating certain things and getting really bullish on Pokemon, I'm sure there are other people in my situation who would feel that way. We could probably absorb a lot of the product at a certain point, right? The lower the product goes, the more I can buy, because my money will go farther. And there just isn't that much of this stuff. So that's really why I'm so bullish, is because I think that there are enough people who have made enough money that they could absorb a lot of it at a certain price. Where that price is, I'm not sure. Whereas for modern is what scares me a bit more, because you have all these people buying modern right now, and hopefully they'll all stay and enjoy it and continue to collect and continue to buy. But there might be there are going to be hundreds of thousands of Hidden Fates cards graded PSA Hidden Fates cards. Where are all those cards going to go? And if the demand really leaves, what's going to happen there? I can imagine kind of these horror scenarios for those sets where you go online onto eBay and you see someone trying to sell like 25 of each Shiny Vault card. And it takes 3 years for them to sell all of their 9s, all of their 10s. It's hard to imagine right now because of the time period we're in, and I hope that doesn't happen, and I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. I think that a lot of supply will hit the market, but that hopefully it will be absorbed over time. The prices certainly will go down, but not so far down, and people won't be in so much of a rush to sell because hopefully they haven't leveraged themselves on credit, that those equilibrium points won't hit, $25 for every PSA 10. That's what I hope, because if we really get down to $25 for every PSA 10 shiny card, every PSA 10 rainbow rare, every PSA 10 secret rare, and then the full arts and the regular GX cards, V cards, whatever, what have you, are like at $10 for PSA 10 cards. That if we get to that price point, because so many of them push them down, what you're going to see is they're just going to sit there for years, and people will slowly buy them. But people aren't going to be mass buying them because they're not going to be likely not going to be buying them to speculate on or invest. Unless they see an opportunity there, they may buy them all up, try to push the price back up. We may see wars happening between the bears and the bulls, that type of stuff. Where all that rests, it's anyone's guess. What's important is to understand those fundamentals when you're thinking about what to do in this market, so you can accurately assess your risk level and risk tolerance of all this sort of stuff. Wright says, felt like every pack was bought from some investing crypto company. Felt commercialized rather than a hobbyist opening. Yeah, people were buying for the shout out, probably for the branding, and maybe just for that. PokeGeekDom says, hey Jake, really enjoyed being a part of the PWCC discussion last night at work, so I can't watch, but I'll be listening. Keep doing big things, my dude. Thank you. Are you in you're probably in the chat with and anyone who hasn't joined it, I think it's an open Discord, and Squeaks and Rated are two of my friends in the hobby, wonderful guys giving lots of free, useful advice to people. And so I was hanging out in their Discord last night and just kind of talking about Pokemon and talking about the market. It was a really enjoyable time. Obi-Wan Kenobi says, totally agree with the Logan Paul sentiments that other people are saying. It hurts me to see the cards be more and more about the money and not the love, though. Yeah, I think what I don't like, it's not so much, I like people valuing these things. When people actually value cards, right, or value anything in life, and there's only a finite amount of it, it's going to be a very expensive thing, or whatever it is, vacation, item, asset, whatever, house, car, because there's a finite amount of something, and a lot of people really value it and want it. What I don't like, and what worries me, is when people are buying an item to just flip it to make money and not buying the item because they want it. So when someone wants to pay a lot for an item because they really value it, I love that, and now there are negative consequences of that because not everyone has that money, and so not everyone can then enjoy that item. But my response to that is that that's what modern should be for. That's what lower grades and ungraded cards and Japanese versions, and there should always be ways of collecting the same art or the same type of card in a more affordable way. I think that what I find toxic or just drains me of my enjoyment of the hobby is when I'm talking to tons and tons of people who seem to know nothing about the cards, have no interest in the cards, are just like, Jake, you've done this forever. You have a lot of cards. You've made a lot of money. Help me make money. I want to make money. Whatever you say, I'll do. I'll make money. It's like that is draining. But thinking about how saying like I really like these cards, it's really fun. First of all, it can be really fun to make money and enjoy making money, and it can be both fun and enjoyable to make money, and it's also very important to make money in terms of actually getting your basic needs to be met. So I'm not against those types of things either, but it does grate against me. And just my, like when I'm hanging out with like Squeaks and Radar and people like that and talking about finances and Pokemon money, we love the cards. Like we enjoy the cards. We also enjoy the financial sport and the psychology, and all of it's fun. And there are other conversations I may have about the finance of the money, as I was saying, that don't have that sort of like, I'm talking to like other really knowledgeable people who have done the research, been in it for a long time, and are here to sort of stay and also care about the people that they deal with. We all run channels and engage with people in large part because we like to talk to other people and share information, and we like to learn things from our audiences and from other creators, that sort of thing, versus a sort of mindset of, I'm just here for a couple months to make as much money as I can. I don't care at all about these things. Just tell me what I need to know so I can move on. Like that type of vibe. All right. Proverbs says, hey, Jake, NFTs are very interesting. Ariel Penguin says, have you collected any NFTs yet? No, so I have not. Probably won't be. I find NFTs fascinating from a psychological perspective on valuing and where people derive value, and it's going to be amazing to see, something like Beeple, who created, for those who aren't following the NFT space, Beeple, who's an artist who, from my understanding, has been creating for like 12 years lots of digital online art and content. And it's sort of a craft that he's been working on and sharing with others, and has developed a following and people who really enjoy his work and have experienced a lot of value from his work. When he sold his NFTs, his art, on the blockchain, those high prices make a lot more sense. Now, of course, there's probably a lot of inflation on them right now because of all the idea that I can buy these and then flip them and make a lot of money. The same stuff that's happening in all of these markets, right? But that's built on something, a real relationship built over 12 years of people knowing who that person is and actually enjoying the person's art. We're also seeing a lot of other things in the space that's kind of more one-offs, people using celebrity and fame, but there's also, Logan Paul really has lots of fans and lots of people who want his NFTs. So they're and that, I don't see that necessarily changing anytime soon, right? But then you have things that seem just kind of random from, and where people aren't really able to tell you why they're valuable or even that they like them or like looking at them, but just say, buy it, it's great, hold it, or its only value is coming from the fact that it's rare. The problem with rarity is it can be anyone can create anything, any one of one, right? And it's technically rare in sort of this digital space, but it's a manufactured rarity. It's not a rarity out of time or age. And then you're missing out on that potential long-term demand and people actually wanting those sorts of things. So it's playing with all of our psychology. This ideas of scarcity, rarity, online versus physical. It's going to be fascinating to watch how it all shakes out. I think it's far too risky for my appetite. I have ways of making money and growing my wealth that I feel much more comfortable in and like I understand. And I only invest in things that I really feel like I can have a good percentage chance of predicting accurately. And NFTs are something that I could see hugely blowing up and tripling and quadrupling and be a huge new space that gets established. But within that, and it's the exact same thing with Bitcoin, it's the exact same thing with the tech bubble, with housing, with all these sorts of things. Often when bubbles are created, there's something, they're not all just hype and nonsense. There's something that it's triggering or touching, some value or something. And then it's about which company or which product can create or take advantage of that in the most effective way, and that will be the one that will survive. But in the meantime, so much BS is built up around it, and hype and fear of missing out, and people just wanting to be in the in crowd and wanting to be the cool kid and part of the cool circle, and willing to put lots of money in to chance it, and so many gamblers and people willing to gamble, that and this idea of striking it rich and making 20, 30, 40 times your money, that it creates this very dangerous environment where most things in that environment end up failing. And that's what we saw with tech startups and companies, right? Amazon found its way out. We may see that with a lot of Bitcoin, with a lot of these different currencies, that maybe Bitcoin finds its way out or another one finds its way out. Maybe the whole industry fails and it never gets adopted. It's all very interesting. It's all very risky. I have friends who are extremely bullish on Bitcoin and have like 50% of their wealth in Bitcoin. I know people from the whole gamut. I'm not a financial advisor. I don't have the answer. I invest in things that I feel really comfortable with and like I feel like I understand and can outcompete. And I guess I have confidence in myself that there's enough opportunity in areas that I really understand that I'm comfortable missing out on potential areas like that. But there may be a time in the future where I jump into NFTs. I'll talk to you guys about it. If I see an NFT I really like or I see some opportunity, I would be open to anything. I do think that digital art and online art can be certainly appealing. And just because it doesn't exist in a physical space outside of that, there are some benefits, right? That it can't be. It's not going to be damaged unless the internet goes down or gets taken down or something terrible happens. But it's not going to disappear. It's not going to get destroyed. Those types of things. So should be interesting. Jake, speaking of NFTs, and we can talk, and I can talk a little bit more in depth about it. First of all, I didn't really define what an NFT is, and if people don't know, they can ask me, and I can try and define it too. I have a feeling probably a number of us do know, but the basic idea, and again, not super knowledgeable about this stuff, but the basic idea is you have non-fungible tokens, which mean that the tokens are not interchangeable. They're not all the same. So the fungible, so Bitcoin, every Bitcoin is the same and worth the same value. And things on the NFT side that are being built are individual, unique pieces of art, or collectible, or whatever. It can be. I'm hearing all sorts of things that they're going to start doing. They're going to start integrating some of these like items that you can purchase online and have. You can buy like an online house and you can have like an online closet and you can like interact that into like games that you're playing. I don't know. I'm hearing a bunch of crazy stuff. I don't know how it's all going to work. I don't know if people are blowing smoke or like they were during the tech bubble with certain promises and ideas and trying to get people excited on versus people. These are very doable things that they're going to be effective and that kids today are going to love and want, and it's going to be huge business around this sort of stuff in the future. I don't know. So Connor says, before that, Just for Talk says, hello, Jake. I've studied a bit more of the sports card market. So you're asking if I've studied. So yeah, so I've been studying the sports card market a little bit, looking at the modern, which I'm interested in. I'm interested in how these like 1 of 1s and 1 of 99s and these 1 of 25s, what have you, do over time. And I'm a huge sports fan, so I watch like every Celtics game and almost every Celtics game unless I'm have some sort of other obligation. So been watching for years, so I know these players. I think that I'm not coming from it as someone, and I collected tons of sports cards as a kid, so I'm not coming from it completely inexperienced or just like unaware of how people feel about these athletes and where the value is. Connor B says, Jake, speaking of NFTs, I would be curious, what's the probability that Pokemon does NFTs for the fall set or sometime soon? Does it cannibalize or expand their core offering? Yeah, definitely what I'm thinking about too, Connor. I have no idea if they will. I think NFTs are being talked about in the Pokemon space because of Logan Paul mainly. And from the card world because of like Top Shots and what's happening there. So I don't know if the Pokemon company cares about any of that or sees any potential value there or something they'd be interested in doing. We'll have to watch together. But those are the thoughts that I have in terms of maybe me trying them out or seeing how they do or experiencing them firsthand. I think opening online digital packs is fun. I don't think you need to open a physical pack in person. It's part of why watching a streamer open a pack online where you're not actually opening it in person still feels like you're opening a pack to some extent and enjoying it. So I think that those aren't issues. And so in that way, I think that opening a pack, seeing what you get, hoping to get the rare item is very similar to opening physical packs in terms of the psychological experience. All right. Martin Benez says, do you think the 4X cert numbers will carry a premium in the long term since the huge backlog in CGC stealing their market share might result in PSA rushing their 5X grades with lower standards? It's possible, Martin. Again, I would buy the card and not the grade. So I would take advantage of people buying cert numbers, which I think is fairly ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that people are paying more or less for cert numbers. You should pay more or less for the standard of the card. I have old cert numbers that are gorgeous cards. I have old cert numbers that are graded too high. I can tell you, I'm not selling the ones that are perfect for anything less than perfect value. I want the high end of the market because those cards deserve the high end of that PSA 10 market for that card, whereas I would take a lower end offer on the cards that are lower, and it has nothing to do with the cert. So I think that's where the market will end up over time. I think people are just uncomfortable in the short run. And for newer people, it's like, well, I don't know what a strong 10 looks like or a weak 10 or this sort of stuff. I feel more comfortable just buying that 4X cert number because I've heard from other people that they tend to be better, because they graded, they had higher grading standards. I do completely agree with you, Martin, about, and if you watch my last video, my concerns are exactly the same, that the standards may be all over the place. So we don't know. PSA also may take their time, which is the other thing I said in that video, and it just may take them forever to get it back, and they may keep their same standards. So we'll have to see. Victor Sutton says, enjoyed hearing your chat last night in the Discord. Yeah, nice hanging out with you. Glad you were there. Eventually, I'm hoping guys get onto Clubhouse, which is where I think we're going to be doing more of these chats, just because it's basically like Discord, but it's so much more organized, and we're not all like speaking on top of each other awkwardly because no one knows who's speaking. It's just much easier visually to kind of speak one at a time and keep the structure organized so that we all get a chance to speak, and everyone sort of in the Discord call could get a chance to speak equally. Clubhouse is definitely overhyped in terms of, it's not like revolutionary, but it's it's a great platform that is going to provide a lot of value for people in terms of their ability to communicate with others and communicate with others in sort of a community type setting around certain topics. So Parker Kish said, "Did you see the outlandish prices on the Vice mini movie on Pokemon?" I did not. I will check it out. Indub says, "I've actually been watching on and off since December and didn't realize that I wasn't subscribed. Thanks for the live chats." Well, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate it. It feels good to have a higher subscriber number. I'm working to actually not care about that stuff because it's so stupid. What actually should matter and what will actually bring me the most enjoyment and everyone here the most enjoyment is if we just focus on the quality of the videos and the fact that we're like enjoying these conversations and that the entertainment and the usefulness, that there's usefulness here. But there's a vanity element definitely that's fun about having more subscribers. But I do think the subscriber piece that's important is people don't take people with small channels seriously. They don't take people with less subscribers seriously. And there are a number of people who just like probably would watch this channel if it was bigger and would engage with us and we could spread more knowledge and all that sort of stuff and just have a bigger community, which I think has some benefits. There are probably some drawbacks because people see the high subscriber number and assume quality, that type of thing. So all these psychological games of growth. And then the other thing is if I want to make money off of this and how much money I want to make, if I'm not big enough, like the bigger this is, like right now I'm doing this Patreon, right, where I think we're up to like 37 or 38 maybe at this point Patreon members. Thank you all so much for joining. I have to rely on each person who watches the channel less for some financial support or donation if I have more people donating and watching. So that's the goal, is to have a big enough community where, we can have 1,000 people or 500 people who find enough value in something like this that they pay the $5, then I can make $2,500, after taxes $2,000 a month or something, maybe a little bit less. And then I can do this into the future and it's like the sustainable thing. So that's why I ask people to subscribe to because that's the goal. Once I get sort of big enough where I feel like I'm making enough money for the time, and to be frank, like my family doesn't get on my case about, you're not making enough off of this, you're giving away too much for free, you're giving away too much of your time, and we want more of you, your job needs more, your actual main job needs more of you, I also love my other hobbies and want to do more of them. It's all of that sort of thing. So that's the type of stuff I think about. So every subscribe helps with that and encourages me to actually keep going and do it. And certainly the Patreon members. But as I've said many times, everyone here is welcome, whether they pay on the Patreon or don't. And I don't want anyone signing up for the Patreon who doesn't feel good about it and like they're contributing to a channel that they like and that they feel like they're getting more than $5 out of this a month value. If you ever feel like you're not, then don't do that. Right? Definitely don't. And that's totally cool because you may not. All right. Parker Kish says, Charlie's appearance was great. You're talking about our video. We've had a couple of videos with Charlie before, Charlie Herlocker. Not sure. You might have been talking with someone else here in the chat. What else do we got here? Mitch says, does anyone know, and this is a question for everyone, if anyone knows, if all the waifu cards are still spiked or has that all calmed down by now? Definitely still, I think, I don't know like the individual ones because I'm not following them all extremely closely, but I think overall, I mean, people are still talking about them. I still hear people in my different Discord chats and on Clubhouse and other places talk about them, want them, all that sort of thing. Pocket Monster Dom says, donates $2. Thank you so much, Dom. I got you, man. Keep it up. I value these. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's see what else we got here. Lots of questions, of course. Thank you for all these great questions. Let's see. Some people talking about level X's and primes. Sorry, there's so many questions. I'm just trying to get organized here and sort them. I always feel bad when I jump over people's questions, but it's inevitable, right, with so many. All right, we're going to start here. So, Fixmania says, do you think PSA will grade Logan Paul's NFT cards? All PSA 10s. I want an NFT of the PSA card in the case. Yeah. All 10s, right? Jody Matomo says 5,000 of something that is only $150 is quite a low population of existence, and because it's Pokemon related, we can understand why prices are skyrocketing. Rarity sells. Andrew M says a little late, but glad to see you. Thanks for being here, Andrew. Appreciate it. Ernest says, hey Jake, I've been investing a bit into the EX era, primarily the first half of the sets. Any thoughts on era plus cards to look out for? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. I'm sorry. Let me read this again. Hey Jake, I've been investing a bit into the EX era. So I don't know exactly. There's like the original Nintendo EX era. There's like the level X's. There's the black and white. It says, any thoughts on the era plus cards to look out for? So I'm not exactly sure. So I'm sorry. So maybe you can ask that below the specific era. It's part of what's difficult about this EX thing. So if you're talking about like the capital EX era, some of the full arts are cool, I think, and difficult to grade. That era was hard. The hardest part of that era was it was the first time when we talk about modern cards, those cards within the modern realm were the most difficult to grade. Okay. Of those full arts. Connor B says, Jake, did you read Buffett's letter? Thoughts? No, I haven't yet. I actually really need to. I've been neglecting my stocks. I follow the market every day, but I haven't. I used to go to Warren Buffett's like Omaha shareholders meeting every year. Not every year, but something like maybe every 3 or 4 years I used to go. And it was always interesting and kind of fun to be there in the middle of Omaha. I'll definitely take a look. I'm always interested in what he has to say. He tends not to say that much, and it tends to be fairly common sense stuff. But it's always good to hear. He, like us on this channel, try to be pretty secretive about what we're doing because we don't want to artificially inflate prices, and also we're competing too. I'm buying things and collecting and investing too. So he tries his hardest not to talk about what Berkshire's buying because he doesn't want to affect the market. Jake, Jody Matama says, Jake, did you hear that Pokemon is officially selling more than Magic the Gathering and big name retailers now? Crazy. Magic is still selling more in smaller LGSs though, which makes sense. Yeah, that is big news. I didn't hear that. I didn't know that specific point. Makes sense to me. ODV Pokemon says, do you think the 25th set will be a vintage reprint or maybe a best off so far set, etc., with maybe a few shining and others like Evo? What's your guess? No idea. You know what? Yeah. No idea exactly. Uh, exactly what. Sorry, I got distracted for 1 sec. Wait, do you think the 25th set will be a vintage reprint, or maybe a best off so far? Okay, with maybe a few shining others like Evo. What's your guess? I'm not gonna guess. I'm honestly not really sure. We'll just have to wait and see. Sorry to dodge. Proverbs says, hey Jake, on the topic of cards people don't think about grading, how do you feel about some of the blister pack promos? I quite like the Vivid Voltage ones for Sobble, Grookey, and Score Bunny. So I'm not aware of like all of the different, there are lots of different modern promos that come in lots of different products. My general advice would be that you have to know, trying to get a sense of how much of that product was printed, maybe as compared to the booster boxes and other sorts of things. Try to get a sense of, to get some estimation of how long it was in print, how many are in stores, how long it's out there. Are you seeing them just like sit on shelves with no one buying them, no one opening them, that sort of thing. The other huge part, right, is going to be the coolness of the art and difficulty to grade. Those are going to be the pieces. So if you can get some of those promos and they're really cool looking and they're real standouts, you can get them and grade them in PSA 10. There's probably some money to be made there. Both Rafi and I have done that in the past, where we would open up products where we knew that the promo card could make us enough money that we could basically get the cards, the booster packs for free. That type of thing is what I'm looking at. Definitely not an expert on all of the, far from an expert. I'm not even knowledgeable on all the different sort of like modern promo cards that come in everything. I just don't follow it because I don't spend time there because I don't buy and sell those things. But if I were, that's the type of stuff I'd be thinking about. Super Glitch says, hey Jake, it seems like many PokeTubers are moving content behind paywalls, Q&As, what they're buying videos, etc. Some of them make perfect sense, squeaks, others not so much. Thoughts? I'm not sure exactly who else is doing it. I know the amount of time and effort I put into this, and I know that I really enjoy it, but I also know the kind of it tires me out. And then I'm just like I have less energy to do other things that might be fun. And we all want to make money for our families, for ourselves. We all have varying different levels of money that we feel like we need, etc. All of those are going to go into how much someone charges, all that stuff. My general feelings on it, I'm very uncomfortable asking for money. I've always worked jobs where I was, not always, but I've worked some fee for service, but generally, I'm a therapist, and generally I do salaried positions where I don't have to think very much about money, and I can just focus on providing value to my clients and being like the best therapist I possibly can be, the most helpful person I possibly can be for them. And I don't have to think about charging them or any of those other things, which happens, right? I get paid for helping people. I get paid for that job. In this space, I have to sort of be in charge of like, how do I charge you guys in a way that feels okay, where you're not angry at me, and also like it's still a win-win and still an okay situation. So it's very awkward and uncomfortable for me. I think for others, I'm sure it's the same. So part of it, I think, is probably having that empathy and understanding that we're not, a lot of us at least, aren't greedy jerks who want to be doing that, but it's like, it's such a grind to make all this content for hours on end, speaking to people and do all this research so you actually have things to talk about. And I take it very seriously, in terms of what I say and the responsibility it might have in terms of impacting other people's financial decisions or collecting decisions, which I care a lot about. So what I would say to you out there, Super Glitch and everyone else, what I would say to everyone is don't pay anyone, including me, who don't feel is worth it, and move on to other people's content or look for free content. Or the most important thing, which is what this channel is really about, right, is we're trying to teach you how to fish. I'm not you're not signing up for a weekly newsletter where I tell you what to buy and then you buy it, right? That's how a lot of some online scams work, but there's also can be value in that, where people can actually give you really good things to buy, where they're doing the work and you're paying them to do that work. Here, I try to talk about fundamentals, and how I think and study and engage so that you are basically doing it for yourself, and where you don't really need me. I can be a decent reminder and say some interesting things that might make you think critically, but overall there isn't a dependency being formed on this channel. The more you watch this channel, hopefully the better you are at doing this for yourself. That would be the goal, right? Where we're actually creating more agency for the people here rather than less. There are other channels or other people who might be trying to get people to depend on them as a good business model. Because it's, and as a therapist, this is very true. It's I want my clients to not need me and stop seeing me. I shouldn't be a permanent guru or fixture in their life. And I don't want to be it's the same sort of thing where good teachers or good advice givers or whatever, you're trying to build that sort of model. So I would look for people who you get that vibe with, who you feel like have interesting things to say, provide value. I think that Squeaks has tons of knowledge. I think he's definitely worth paying, a little bit of money to hear what he has to say. And what his experience is like if you're investing a lot of money into Pokemon, okay? There are other people that I wouldn't pay, or there are people who are charging way more than I would ever pay. There are also, so there are people who are going to use their brand and their name, but aren't going to provide actually that much value to you. And the value is going to come from, after listening to this person, am I thinking critically in a way that I didn't? Did they challenge something that I didn't think of? Did they add something? Or are they just making me feel more comfortable and confident because they're saying things I already know, which can provide value too? So if I were you, it would be that process of assessing it for yourself. It's an open marketplace. People can charge whatever they want, and people can pay whatever they want. So I think it will be a shame. And what I want to do is, if I can keep whatever is free now always free and available to everyone like this, where all you're doing, you are paying me with your time and attention. And I do have an ad running at the beginning of the video on these, which pays me a little bit of ad revenue. So I get a little bit from these, and I get the super chats when people feel like donating, which is very generous always. But yeah. So that's my thinking on it. So we're going to go for about, yeah. We're going to go for about 18 more minutes, and then I actually have to run. I'm doing a lot of moving right now and visiting family at the moment. So CJ Dework donated $9.99. Thank you so much, CJ. You've been a ongoing supporter of the channel, both financially and also with great questions and just being super nice to me. I appreciate it. Says, sorry I'm late to today's chats. Was playing Pokemon Go with the kids. I will definitely be going back and listening to what I missed. Great roundtable discussion with PokeNav and Z&G. Yeah, it was super fun. We've talked about doing that for a little bit, and we'll probably do more of those in the future. It's great talking to those guys. My favorite things to do are roundtables. I prefer that more to me just talking to a camera like this and just answering questions. I love hearing what other people have to say and then expanding on what they say and them expanding on what I say. So hopefully we'll be doing more stuff like that. I also want to do debates. I think we should debate topics. I think we should debate topics on this channel, on other channels. I think there's not nearly enough debate in the Pokemon community. I think it's part of why people were so weirded out when I was disagreeing with James on some of his videos and were like, you guys are feuding or you hate each other, because there's this weird sort of thing in YouTube culture, I guess, that like if people are making both sides of an argument or disagreeing, they somehow like, I don't know, people like the drama or like to pretend that that's not healthy and good for everyone. So I hated that people reacted that way. It really drove me nuts. Okay. Frankie Perez says, "Hey Jake, what are your thoughts of all these PokeTubers and Twitch streamers ripping through most of the sealed products that's still obtainable, like S&M products that's out of print now? So how do I feel about it? So I'm worried for people. I'm worried that there are people who are buying these things because they are feeling depressed and guilty and are addicted to gambling. I'm a therapist, work with a lot of addiction issues. I have spent money on gambling and done things that I shouldn't have in my life. It's very easy when you start buying and when it's just like the click of a button and a credit card. And if you're depressed and miserable, just imagine this, right? I'm depressed and anxious, and I'm not shaming anyone. We've all been through things. I've been through plenty of things, right? This is coming from like this empathetic place where I get it. It's like I'm depressed, I'm down, I'm not feeling good, and I can just like press this button, which opens a pack and makes me feel a little bit better, at least for a little bit. And I'm worried that that's happening and that people aren't doing a good enough job with the awareness of like mental health struggles and issues within this community and within gambling sorts of things. So I worry that that's part of why people are paying so much money, and a lot of these streamers are making quite a bit of money off of that is my concern. So that's one part of it that concerns me. The other thing that stinks is I would like everyone, no matter your socioeconomic, position and status, to be able to enjoy some fun Pokemon cards, particularly if you have kids and you want to open it with your kids and your kids, you want to see your kids light up and enjoy some of the stuff you enjoyed as a kid. Like, that sounds amazing. So I'm very much all for Pokemon printing a lot of modern product. I'm frustrated with the Pokemon company and trying to figure out what's going on. That there just isn't enough out there that people can just buy their kids a pack of Pokemon cards, just like my dad bought me every week. And those are important, special memories for me opening those cards with my friends and searching for those things. And so, Andrea Svein sent a super chat as well. Thank you very much. Very generous. Says, "Hi, Jake. Thoughts on the Middle Earth boxes?" Yeah, I really like Middle Earth. I think they're really cool. Some of the product is almost impossible to get, extremely hard. I've been trying for months. Other booster boxes like White Hand and Dragons and the Wizards, which is the original set, which can be a little harder to find, particularly in limited. But certainly the first two you can find on eBay still for not that much higher than they originally were. So it depends on how many of those are. It depends how many of those are out there. But in terms of like fun as a collector, it's the same thing I was saying about Harry Potter boxes, right? You can buy that for $70 to $110, and as long as you actually really like the cards, and I really like Lord of the Rings, and I really love opening vintage packs. It feels like I'm opening old Magic product when I open that. And it's this amazing feeling for only $70 to $110. And I get to build out cool binders of these really cool arts and sets. It's also a really great game. So there's a lot of value in it. But there hasn't been movement on those boxes. Other boxes that are rare, there has been movement on. And it's just so hard to find. Particularly like the Balrog set, if you know Middle Earth. Which isn't boxes. They come in these sealed starter decks, and those are very expensive. They were the last one produced. They're very short print run. That's very true for a lot of different dead CCGs and TCGs, that the last set sometimes is the hardest one to find because it was already dying in popularity and they just printed so little of it because of that. All right, so I'm going to hop to the bottom of the chat. I know Sorry, I'm missing so many questions in the middle. Thank you all so much for all your great questions and for engaging with me, but we only have about 12 minutes, so I want to hang out with you guys at the bottom. If there are any more dying questions or comments here at the end that anyone has, and then I'll be back So next Sunday I will not be able to do the live stream. I have to go to a conference that I need to go to, but I'm gonna move it to Saturday because I want to make sure, and for the patrons and for everyone that I do this once a week and really stick to that word. So I will be doing it Saturday at 3 instead of Sunday. So let's see, any more questions? Chris says, do you think it's mad to buy base set unlimited PSA 9s at the moment? I'm more interested in having them to keep, but if the prices go up, it's a bonus. So, okay, so unlimited PSA 9s, a lot of them fell. If we look at the Charizard, for example, the height of that Charizard was about $6,000 for a PSA 9, right around sort of a few weeks after, the Logan Paul booster box break, roughly. Then it went from $6,000, it kind of moved around a little bit in the middle, and eventually went all the way down to about $1,500, where it was selling around $1,500, okay? That was the lowest buy it now price. There was buy it now prices for $1,500 on eBay. Those started to get bought up. That was the floor of that sort of big retrace. For a few weeks or about a month, it didn't really go up too much more. It was kind of $1,500 to $1,700. I was seeing quite a bit of them selling. I think there are a number of people panicking, but there were more and more people selling them, but the market kept absorbing them, and it didn't fall anymore in price. So it kind of held there pretty well. And since then, it's been pushing back up, and then with the Logan Paul announcement and base set and people thinking base set's going to go up again, I've been seeing more movement on those. They did okay, I think, in this last PWCC auction night block. I have to look specifically. But just understanding that price, those price movements is extremely important in understanding where we think we are in sort of the cycle when we try to give a best guess of where it might move next. Even with all that information, though, it's impossible to predict exactly what's going to happen next. I would say that it's encouraging. The floor at 1,500 seemed pretty strong and pretty stable and sturdy. It would take a bigger bust of the hobby, I think, for it to really push intensely down below that 1,500 right now. It was pretty stubborn around that 1,500. So I think if you're buying probably between 1,500 and 2,500, that's probably around market. I think if you can get closer to the 1,500 point, that's probably a decent buy if you really want those cards. Again, I view those cards, and I've talked about this on the channel. Those cards are probably always going to be coming up on the market, so I don't expect exponential explosion and growth on a card like that. I think you have better chances on the set cards from like Neo, for example, that are so low pop, the PSA 10s, that they may just all of a sudden disappear completely for like a year. We're not probably ever going to, almost certainly we're never going to see that for a PSA 9 Unlimited base set, Charizard, for example. We might, and if we do start seeing that, then the hobby's in this really amazing place where everything has really been gobbled up into collectors and things are being held much more firmly. So those are my thoughts on it. Not a financial advisor. I think it's any purchase here, you have to be comfortable with a certain degree of short-term risk, I would say. PokeJohn says, how much do you see the upcoming $1,400 stimulus checks affecting the market? Yeah, I think that it will. I think people will be spending those checks on Pokemon, spending those checks on whatever collectible they want. Although I will say that I do think a lot of people, PokeJohn, probably have already spent that money because they already knew or thought that they were going to get it. And probably a lot of people actually have already spent the money on credit, knowing that they would get that money so some of the uptick we saw in certain cards may also be from that. So this is one of those things with investing. It's always about thinking. We're playing chess here, right? We're always trying to think a few moves ahead of where everyone else is thinking. Other people are thinking, okay, Logan Paul, good for the hobby. We're thinking, okay, Logan Paul, good for the hobby. Then people probably already thought that. So what does that mean, right? So you're constantly trying to think another move ahead of your competition and of what other people are thinking. Okay. Cart1988 says they better spend it on rent. Yeah, that would be as we say on this channel, and I think people who care about you would say is, please be responsible out there. It's hard. It's hard. Pocket Monster Dom says I may have to sell my Team Up booster box. I think those are going for a good amount. That'll be a nice payday if you do decide. Mercenary for Hire says, hey Jake, discovered your channel recently and have enjoyed your content. Thanks very much. I'm interested in getting into TCGs as a vendor. Curious on your thoughts regarding Digimon in the short term. So I don't feel like I know the Digimon market too well, unfortunately. I should study it. I'm going to put it on the list. I've got Fortnite, Digimon, some other things to look at when I get around to it. People who I have talked to about Digimon do like it, are intrigued and interested in it. I liked the show when I was a kid, so I am interested maybe in opening a little bit of it. I think that, I don't know if it's first edition or limited or how they call it, but the original booster boxes are actually going for a pretty decent amount, I think, right now, right? Yeah, sorry, I really don't know too much about it. I think with these new card games, what you have to be worried about is that they're coming out in sort of a boom period, and so there are good and bad things about that. If we compare it to Pokemon, for example, or Proverb says flesh and blood, which is right, this type of thing that's happening now. But if we compare it to Pokemon came out in a boom time around cards, where kids were collecting sports cards, kids were collecting, and so Pokemon cards, they really liked it, and it was easy for them to start doing it. And what happens is when you have these periods where everyone starts collecting cards, businesses come out and say, okay, we need to make cards because kids like cards and we want to sell them cards. So every franchise is going to start selling, right? Every franchise is going to start taking their IP and making some card version of what they're doing. So the problem is that then in down period, so a lot of the product gets made. The good part is that nostalgia is built around them. Okay, that's the good part, just like Pokemon. The bad part is there's a lot of the product, and then when the demand disappears, you can have 15 years of no interest in Pokemon and a dead TCG, basically. Pokemon was pretty dead. Not as dead as others, and obviously they were still making modern Pokemon, and Pokemon was still playable, but it's nothing like it is right now in terms of the prices, the attention, particularly from adults, okay? So that type of cycle, first of all, Pokemon is a much bigger IP, right? And a much bigger company that makes a lot more money, and it's just there's just much more interest and demand in Pokemon than there ever will be, very, very likely, in something like Digimon. But you also have to be just aware of that hobbies tend to be cyclical, not linear in that sort of way. So hopefully that helps. Oh, you donated $10. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Mercenary for Hire. Very nice. So got about 4 more minutes if anyone else has a question. Jody Monma says, good job, Jake. Haha, Fortnite Series 1 Blaster Box is still available for a decent price. Yeah, Fortnite, we'll see. It's interesting. Kids love that game, man. They love it. Sleepy Bunny says, what do you think about the Logan Paul digital cards? No appeal for me, personally. But brilliant business potential for him. I mean, it costs you nothing. You don't, easy to create, from my understanding. It's basically just his brand that's selling them, right? There isn't something that's so amazing or unique about the art. The reason that those are valuable is because of him and his brand and his fan base. I'm not a Logan Paul fan. I'm not a Logan Paul hater or something. Not that, I wouldn't use terms like hater or lover. I know that that's like the online way of talking about these sorts of things, but I'm not I don't dislike Logan. I have nothing against the guy. No strong negative feelings towards Logan Paul. But I also am not a fan of Logan Paul. I've been following his career. I'm not really a fan of any. I'm not someone I think who generally gets caught up in someone or fame or needing an item that represents something from that person. I don't have any interest. Like I'm a big fan of, let's see, I really like John Mayer's guitar playing, for example. So if John Mayer puts out like an all acoustic guitar album or something, I would like to buy that because I like his guitar playing. If John Mayer like made some sort of like NFT art thing that wasn't that cool looking, I would have zero interest in owning that just because I like his guitar playing. So that's the type of guy that I am, is that I appreciate actors for their acting. I appreciate musicians for their, and then some actors and some musicians are also beautiful speakers and beautiful, and can do other things. So it's not that people need to stay in their lane or anything like that. It's more of like, to me, someone's fame doesn't make me like want every thing about them or every article, of their existence, put in some sort of way that I can own. Let me put it that way. So hopefully that makes sense. So I do have to end for today. I'm going to answer this one last question that I see here at the bottom. But thank you all so much for hanging out on this Sunday. I hope everyone's doing well today. If you can take one more second to hit that like button and subscribe if you're not subscribed, if you like the content, really appreciate that. And the last question I'm going to answer here is Daniel Ruiz, and it says, how are PSA Express submissions right now? I'm hoping it's less than 3 months. So I was actually in a Clubhouse room with someone from PSA who said, I think about that. I have to, off the top of my head, I forget. But not that long, I think, still, although I know that they've been telling, like, James, I might be giving the wrong information here, but my best memory is that they've been telling James that they can't even promise any specific dates. And because they can't promise anything, I, as a seller or a collector or buyer, wouldn't feel comfortable that it's definitely going to be 3 months, definitely going to be 4 months. But I think 3 to 4 months hopefully isn't out of the question, okay? Or hopefully even a little bit less, all right? So thank you all again. So great seeing so many familiar faces and hanging out. I look forward to this every week. I love talking about Pokemon. I talk about Pokemon and collectibles and investing, whether I'm doing this or not, with my friends. And so to be able to do this as a hobby is really fun. And so hopefully I'm doing it justice for you guys and providing good info that helps you have fun in this hobby and also make good decisions and helps make you feel more comfortable and grounded in your